So, my name is Tony. I like to be called Tony. It's Tony with a Y. If you say it with an I, I'll know it. And I'm going to give you a disappointed dad. Okay, so if you're not familiar with disappointed dad, it's when dad's disappointed with you and he always looks over his glasses at you. All right. I'm an old fart, so I tell old jokes. And like all old farts, I expect you to laugh like your sides are going to split when I tell you a stupid joke. So, my first stupid joke. Are you guys ready? Yeah? Okay, you know how most people talk about, I was a premature baby, I was born a week early, or I was born a month early?
Mm-hmm.
I was born a year early. So, you might ask, how can that be, Tony? Well, the answer is simple. I was born December 24th, 1962, but I was supposed to be born January 1st, 1963. So I was born a whole year early. I don't see you guys laughing. Has it been a long day at work, Charlotte?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be even longer hour here. I'm going to try and stretch this out and make it feel like 5. Fair enough?
Okay.
Are you with us? Are you with us, Izzy? Okay, Izzy, you look like you're fielding calls from customers with that headset on. So if I start hearing you jabbering about, oh, you need to install this software, I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I actually do work like for a call center.
Oh, do you?
That's why I have.
That's great. That's great.
You caught me.
So,
You caught me.
What is it that you can help me with?
I work for like a startup that is a health application startup based out of like San Francisco, and like I try to help people download apps and get started.
All right. So a little background on me. I've been teaching chemistry for since before you were a teenager, both of you, 20 years. I like it. I've been teaching CR for 20 years. I've been teaching Chem A. I've taught it many times. But this is only my second time online, and it's a challenge. And as such, there will be times when I make mistakes, and I've already made them this semester. And I will try to fix them as soon as I can and try to make the class as smooth as possible, but it's not always possible. So that being said, let's go ahead and get started with kind of the general layout of the Zoom sessions, and then we'll get into looking at the course itself. So the Zoom sessions, Monday and Wednesday, will be lecture type Zoom sessions where I will talk about lecture material. I expect you to have watched the lectures before the Zoom sessions and have tried some of the homework problems before the Zoom session, so that hopefully you come to the Zoom session and you ask questions. And what will happen is I will show you how to solve those problems on a piece of paper so that you see how I'm thinking and you see the kind of work I expect on an exam. Tuesdays and Thursdays, because they are normally lab days, I will be going over the labs that we'll be doing. So today being Tuesday, we're going to go over some introduction to the class and then quite a bit of lab safety and how to get your lab kit and so forth and so on. On Thursday, we'll be talking about the measurements lab, which has not posted yet. I tend not to post stuff until you need it. So I'll post the measurements lab tomorrow between some Zoom sessions. All right, I'm going to change my share screen so you can see what I have on the screen. So here, this is my dashboard. Let me go to that. And you can see on my dashboard, I have 4 classes. This 252 is the morning section. This 253 is the afternoon section as originally scheduled. And so I'm just going to go, it doesn't matter which one I go to. They're both identical except for the numbers. Okay, So here you'll see that when you link to the class, the first thing you get taken to are the recent announcements. And it looks like the previous, most recent 3 announcements are posted. And the rest are probably there, but not unless you open this up and look at them all. The class is separated into modules. Last semester, I started with module 1 because that made the most sense to me. But I've named the modules based on the chapter they're related to. There is no chapter 0, so it's the introduction module. Module 1 is related to chapter 1 in our book, and so forth and so on. And you can see that the modules are sequential because we'll be going over the chapters sequentially. And if you look at, I'm not sure if you have access to all of this, but you'll notice it switches from module 10 to 23 because we're skipping from chapter 10 to chapter 23. Any questions there? And if you have any questions, feel free to just ask. I will answer your question as best I can. The plan is to start each module with this overview of things that you expect to see in the module, things for you to do. I'm going to back out of this now. You don't really need the overview because if you look at the module itself, the list of things are the things that you want to do. So here you can see with this little staple next to this is a document to read, Welcome to Chem 1A, where I'm supposed to kind of come off as a nice guy. I don't think I pulled it off. Here we have the orientation letter. And here we have the syllabus. In fact, I'm going to rename this so that it's more clear that this is the syllabus. So you can kind of see how I'm able to manipulate things here in my module pretty easily. And then there's the introduction to online learning video, which if you've already taken an online class, a science class, then you know what you're in for. If you haven't, you should probably watch this video because it's informative. Now we'll be taking our exams and quizzes using Proctorio. It's a way to lock down your computer to keep you from using other sites. The quizzes will be taking using this first practice quiz mode, where basically everything is locked down. Your quiz screen is full screen. You're not supposed to try to open any new tabs or any new windows or upload anything because you'll be kicked out of the exam or the quiz. And that's the way I want it. I want you to be able to use a calculator, and that's about it on your exam or your quizzes. Now for the quizzes, they're multiple choice. So you choose the best of 5 answers, and then when you're done, you submit your quiz. The exams, you have to upload files because all of the questions are word problems. Now, when I have this thing locked down, you can't upload files to your computer to submit answers. And I'm fine with that. You're going to go through the test, the exam, work out everything on a sheet of paper. And then when you're done, you'll close that exam and you'll open up the second part of the exam. The second part of the exam will be using Proctorio, but with very lenient settings so that you should be able to download stuff, upload stuff, and so forth and so on. So for the second part of the exam, what you want to do is when you're done with the exam, take images of your work, 1 page at a time, send them to your computer, create a file for all those images, and then very quickly, if possible, open them up and save them as PDF. And then you open the second part of the exam, which will look like the first exam, only in this case, it will ask you to upload images of your work. And since you have everything in a nice file, you'll just be able to drag and drop as you go along. And you should be able to upload those files in a matter of, if you're prepared, in a matter of a couple of minutes. And that amount of time you're going to have for the second exam is going to be very short, enough time for you to get everything onto your computer, get it organized, and then upload it. And that's to prevent students from using outside sources on the exam. So the practice quiz is under the very strict conditions. Practice quiz 2 was supposed to be the very lenient conditions. Students were having trouble with that, and I could not change the settings. So you can see that there's a practice quiz 3, which is in case part 2 is not working for you. You get to do these quizzes as many times as you like to find out what works and what doesn't work for you. So you should be able to reopen these again and again and again. If you get into practice quiz 2, some people have opened it at like 2 times, and then for the 3rd time they can't get in. So 3 is there. If this continues to be a problem, I'll figure out some sort of workaround. Okay. Someone had a question. Was that you, Izzy, or was that you, Charlotte?
Yeah, I was just wondering what we were supposed to see for part 2, because I think for that part I just uploaded an image, and I wasn't sure, was there something else to it, or?
Nope. So this basically says blah blah blah, and here I can show you what you would see when you preview it. When you preview it, it says this is to blah blah blah, practice submitting an exam. Question 1. Write your name on a sheet of paper, make an electronic image, and upload the image.
Okay, so that was it. Okay, cool.
That's it.
For the it's funny because you mentioned that we weren't able to upload things, but I was able to upload something in the first part as well. I was able to upload that image as well. It just gave me like a countdown of like 3 minutes, or like you have 3 minutes or like 2 minutes to do this, and like,
Oh, it did. I was not aware of that, but
it was really strange. I was like, oh shoot, I have to do this quickly.
yeah. And I'm trying to remove that part of the anxiety out of the exam,
Yeah.
so that you feel a little more confident about, okay, I'm going to get it done. Now I'll have a chance to take images, get it on my computer, and then just upload what I've already done.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been enough time, like, if you aren't used to doing that.
I didn't realize there was like a 3-minute countdown.
I don't know. It was like a very short countdown, and I was just trying to do it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right. Oh, I mean, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
It may be right. It may be what they do. This is something you should have already done. I don't know if you've done it or not because I'm not keeping track, but student introduction, where you basically tell me why you're taking chemistry, how you study, if this is your first online class, and your name. Okay, so that's all of module 0, which should be done. And let's get to module 1 now. So module 1, you can see I start off with these confirm Zoom session links. I just had to change the 10 o'clock links. So this is a new file, and I just sent out an announcement about that. So if you link to one of these, you can get to that particular session. So this would be the Monday 10 session. This one would be the Monday 1:15 session. And a question people ask is, well, when you have those 3 sessions, do I have to attend all 3? And the answer is they're all the same, but all keyed to whoever's attending. So this morning at 10, I talked about this type of stuff. At 1:15, I talked about this type of stuff. And I think at the 10 o'clock when I used a British accent, the 1:15, I used a Australian accent, and they're kind of a little bit different. And right now I'm just talking with my normal voice. So if you want to see those, you can. So I'm going to go back here. And I've decided that if I do put these Zoom sessions online, if we go down here to the very bottom, we have this module 1. Oh, I got to remove this guy. Remove. I'll publish this guy. I always get that it doesn't work in Firefox. You got to open a new window. And here you can see that there are 2 files you can watch, the afternoon file, the morning file. When I'm done with YouTube, there will be a Chem 1 evening file. And I talk about the same thing each time. Okay. So let's go back here, close that. And I'm going to go back towards the top. So I also have the overview for module 1. And here we have the lectures and homework part. So you can see that I have the basic concept of chemistry video lectures 3C media. And I also have basic concepts of chemistry video lectures YouTube. The videos are the same in each. There's 3 in the case of each of these. And I'll just go to the YouTube ones real quick. Actually, YouTube has been kind of slow. I'm going to back up and go to 3C media. The reason I have both of these is that 3C media have been captioned and California approved for teaching. The YouTube ones are not approved. And if I'm going to put media like this up, it has to be approved. If I put up other media that's identical but not approved, that's okay. So here, if we scroll down in this window, you can see that there are actually 3 videos to watch. Each is about an hour long. I found that over the course of the semester, last semester, that hour-long videos don't cut it. So I tried to make them shorter. So in future chapters, there might be like 6 videos instead of 3. Okay, so you want to watch those videos. I have also posted a PowerPoint presentation for the particular chapter. The caveat is that these were given to me by the publisher. I have not read through them, and I'm not going to. I hate PowerPoints, but some people like them, so I'm throwing them up there for people to look at if they so desire. I went to this one lecture where a person put up the PowerPoints, and then they started reading everything right off of the PowerPoint. I was like, why do you even exist? You should have just sent the PowerPoint. Okay, module 1 homework. You can see, well, I clicked away from it, but this is the module 1 homework. This is identical to what I posted last semester, except for number 11, which says try as many problems from the end of the chapter until you can write out the answers without looking for help in the book. Now, the reason I tell you that is because that's how you're going to take a test. You're going to write out the answer without help from the book. And so that's how you prepare for the test. For this first chapter, there's actually 2 sets of problems because the chapter is broken into 2 parts. One part is just basic concepts of chemistry, and the other one is math and chemistry. So there's 2 sets of problems that you want to work at. The first set are the much easier ones, so you want to get through those as soon as possible and start working on that second set. And so when I'm talking about the book, this is the book that you should get. I have a hard copy because I hate those digital copies, but the digital copy is much less expensive. And if I show you the first set of problems, they're basically on page 24, 25, 26, and so forth and so on. But when you skip past that, there's another set of problems on like page 50. So you want to get through that first set around page 24 as quickly as you can, and then get onto those ones at page 50, because they're the math problems. And I find that students have the greatest amount of difficulty with math. Okay. You can see the points on this are 0. So you might be wondering, why should I even do homework if it's not worth anything? And the answer is because if you don't do the homework, you're going to fail the class. You'll drop in about a month, and that'll be less grading for me. I'm okay with that. But I'd prefer you stay in class, you do these problems, you do well on the test, and you just kick some butt. That's what I would prefer. So you want to be able to do these homework problems, and you might want to know, where can I get the answers to these? Well, for the first few chapters, I posted the answers. So let me see. So here's the module 1 homework solution right below the homework. And if I link to that, it says module 2. I'll fix that. The reason it says module 2 is that last semester I started with module 1 because who starts with 0? I should have. So this module 2 does match module 1. I'll rename this and resave it and relist it. But for right now, this is the solution to the module 1 homework. And the red is what I have written. And the red is kind of what I would expect for answers on an exam. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so let's go to the labs. And we're going to take a look at the lab notebook. So for the lab notebook, this photo submission, which you want to get done by tomorrow, is you're going to submit a photo of your lab notebook, because I want to make sure that you have the right notebook before the measurements lab that we do on Thursday. So I have some examples of lab notebooks right here. Let me show you my examples. So I went to the dollar store this morning to buy these examples. This is an appropriate lab notebook because it is bound, and that's the main reason. This is not a good lab notebook because, for me, because if you take a look at the inside, there's no lines on the pages. So you would see me writing at angles up and down, which you're going to see in the lecture videos. Bad lab notebook for me. Also got this one from the dollar store. Just says composition book. And again, it is bound. And you can see that it has lined pages. And this cost $1. What would be better than this, in my opinion, is a lab notebook that was quad ruled. So basically it has graph paper inside instead of lined paper. And the reason the graph paper is nice is that in some of these labs, you will draw graphs. And if the paper looks like a graph, it's just easier to do. If you buy one of these and you have to put a graph in, you're going to have to buy graph paper. Draw your graph on this, cut it out, and paste it into your lab notebook. Actually, paste it in. Get yourself a glue stick, cut it out and paste it in. So I like the quad ruled better. You can get these at Staples and other stores. This is another example of a lab notebook. This is one I used at Humboldt State for a physical chemistry class. And what's nice about this is that it already comes with the pages pre-numbered. And so I'm going to talk about that for a moment. In this notebook, you can see, if I hold this closely, that at the top here, it says table of contents. And over here, it says 1. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay, so when you get your lab notebook, the first thing you want to do is, let me do a new share. Actually, let me do a stop share. Yeah, there we go. So you can see the lab notebook a lot easier now. That looks backwards to me. Does that look backwards to you? Huh. Maybe it's just my computer. Okay, so the first page, you write table of contents and you start filling this in as you do the labs. And what you're going to write down is the name of the lab and the page it starts on. Now, when I flip this page, you'll notice that there's no number on this page, and this page says 3. Can you see that? Now, if this is page 3, and if this is page 1, what page is this?
2.
2. I'm just trying to save time writing. So you should go through and number your lab notebook, page 1, 3, 5, and be done with it. That's the first thing you do with your lab notebook. And then now I'm going to go back to my share screen and show you how you write in your lab notebook. Okay, so let's look at the lab notebook requirements. And all of these documents are pretty much either PDF or Word documents. So you should be able to download and print them if you want to. You do have access to a free copy of Word using Office 395. And so if you want to download that Office 395, you just go to redwoods.edu, do a search for Office 365. It'll take you to a page and show you how you can download that and start using Office 365, which gives you Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and maybe even Mail. I'm not sure. So that's free, and you can put it on like 5 different devices. So the lab notebook requirements, this is first a little ditty about why we have them. Next, it tells you what the physical requirements are for your lab notebook. And then it tells you the entries that you write into your lab notebook. First, you write in pen, always, never anything else. And if you make a mistake, you do not use whiteout. You do not use an eraser because you're writing in pen. You do not blacken it out. You just put a line through it. So you can see here I misspelled mistake and I put a line through it. And this is a lab notebook I had from Humboldt State. And what I'm looking for here is this. You can see I have on this page, do you see that line going through everything?
Yeah.
So I made a mistake on that whole page. But do you see that little okay there? That little okay was a message to myself that, well, you know what, that page was okay. And if I had erased all of that, if I had ripped this page out, if I had used whiteout, all of that information would have been gone and I would have had to do it again. So this is one of the reasons why you don't cover up your mistakes. You keep them, but just put a little symbol through it so you know it's a mistake. So I'm not sure if you're one of those people where everything has to be just perfect, but the way to think about a lab notebook is that the perfect lab notebook will show the mistakes and also show that they are mistakes. And that's a perfect lab notebook. Okay. You want each of the following sections: a title section, an introduction. The introduction is going to be a brief description of what you're doing, why, and how. For me, I like to make these things bullet points rather than narratives. I've never been good at writing stories, but I am good at just writing little bullet points about here's what's going on. Safety, you always deal with the safety issues, even if there aren't any. If there aren't any, you would write down there are no safety issues related to this lab. You write out the procedure. Now for the procedure, what you actually do in lab may be different than what you had planned on doing. So my suggestion for the procedure is to actually write it on a separate sheet of paper and start doing the lab. And as you're doing the lab, you write down in your lab notebook what you've done, little bullet points. I added 2 mils of blank to this. And that way, if you deviate from the procedure, you don't have to cross anything out and write down, oh, I did this instead. You just have your procedure. But by having the procedure written out ahead of time, you have something to guide you. Does that make any sense there? So it's better to be prepared. Data. Data would be the information you collect when you're doing the procedure. If you're collecting repetitive type data, like you're measuring 20 different things and you want to find the length, it's nice to use a table. Sometimes you don't have a table because you don't do things repeatedly. And in that case, you want to make sure that every data point you put down has some sort of a label with it. So 7 centimeters doesn't mean anything. But if you have length of the note card 7 centimeters, then it's a lot more meaningful. Okay? And you want to show sample calculations. So let's say we're going to be doing a density lab in a little bit. Let's say I'm making you calculate the density of 5 things. And to calculate density, you take mass and divide it by volume. Now, if you're going to do that 5 times, I don't need to see 5 calculations. I just want to see one example. But you might be wondering, so, well, what do I do with the 5 results if I'm only showing you one? And the answer is you make a results table. The discussion. You always want to have a discussion. And this can also be a bulleted discussion list. This is an example of a horrible discussion where I would probably give you a 0 for the whole lab. The lab went really well and everything happened like it should have. That's absolutely horrible. So let me tell you how to make a good discussion. If in your introduction you said, we're going to determine the density of pennies, you would start your discussion with, we experimentally determined the density of pennies to be blah. So you've answered your intro. But then you would go further. You would say, well, I found the density of pennies to be blah. I looked online and I found that most people found it to be blah, and my number's a little low. Not a whole lot low, but a little low. And that's a better discussion. And an even better discussion would be, I think the reason my numbers came out to be a little low are blah. And you would say, okay, maybe I measured something incorrectly. And rather than then, and a lot of people say in your discussion, next thing you do is you say, so here's what I do differently. And I'm not a big believer in that. I just have this feeling that if you tell people, here's why my number is a little off, it's fairly obvious what things you're going to do differently next time. Does that make any sense? So that's what a discussion should be. Okay. So that's what's going to be in every lab notebook. But when you submit your lab for that lab, you're going to have photocopies of this. You're going to have photocopies of you doing the lab for particular instances. Like, for instance, I might have you photograph the volume in a graduated cylinder and submit that. If we're doing a lab where you need to wear goggles, I might have you take a photograph of you doing the lab with your goggles. So these are the kind of goggles that we get to use. I made links to these in the syllabus. They can't have holes in the sides and they have to cover your eyes really well. I'm not going to make you wear your goggles for every lab, only for those where you need them. Okay? So you won't need goggles for about a couple of weeks, but you want to get them. You can buy them at any hardware store. Usually they're about $5. The other thing you're going to turn in with your lab is you're going to turn in a lab assignment. And if we take a look here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You see how measurements, there's a lab assignment and the lab notebook. You're going to turn in both parts for each lab. And usually the due dates are going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 days later. So it's not something where once I post a lab, you want to wait until the day it's due because you won't get it done. There's too much thinking to go on. Okay, so that's the lab notebook. Do you have any questions about that? Okay,
so
let's go.
What are we submitting? We're just taking pictures of our lab notebook.
For this one, you're just submitting a photo of your lab notebook. You can see it's worth 0 points.
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to make sure that you're starting off with the proper notebook when we get to the measurements lab. So this is an opportunity for you to submit it and get some feedback and say, hey, yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's go to lab safety. There are these 5 videos for you to watch. And then there's this lab safety quiz. Let's take a look at the lab safety quiz. It's worth 10 points. I'll go to the preview. And the instructions say answer questions 1 to 31 of the safety quiz at the provided link. You have to get a perfect score. So let's take a look at that safety quiz. You can see that there's 120 questions. So my first warning to you is you answer questions 1 through 31, not all 120. You need to get a perfect score to pass the quiz. So you either get 10 points or you get 0. So if we go to question number 1, and I'm just going to pick A, you can see I got it wrong. If I go to question 2, and I'm going to pick A, I got it wrong. Question 3, I'm going to pick A, and I got it wrong. Because what is the answer when you don't know what the answer is? It's always C, right? So let's see if C is correct. No, C is not correct. Oh, well, it looks like all of the above is correct. Are you with me here? So look at number 3. Do you see that the background is yellow? Let's try and actually get number 4 right. Examples of personal protective equipment do not include contact lenses. They're not protective equipment. So you see number 4 has a background of green. Now I'm going to go ahead and, do you see this little thing here that says score quiz? I'm going to go there, and you can see that for the first 7 questions, I tried 4. I got 1.5 correct, which is a 21.4%. It's not good enough. 1 through 31 have to be green, and you have to get 100% to pass the quiz. So what I would do if you messed up is I would just reload the quiz and start again. Any questions about the safety quiz? So once you do score a perfect score, let's see, number 4 was all of the above, wasn't it? No, contact lenses. So once you go to score quiz, what I want you to do with this page is I want you to take a screenshot of it and submit it. So here, safety quiz, choose a file, take a screenshot, submit it. Any questions there? Okay. Next, we have the materials agreement and liability waiver. So do you see how that next slot says liability waiver? It's worth 0 points. And then right after it, it says liability waiver again. This document is associated with this assignment. So for this assignment, it says, please read the liability waiver. This is another link to the same document. And if you accept the terms on a piece of paper, you're supposed to write out, I accept the terms of the blah, 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 blah. You're supposed to sign it, date it, print your name, your student ID. And if you're under 18 years of age, you're supposed to have your guardian print their name and sign it. And then once you do all of that, you take a photo of it and you submit it. So if I look here, I can't show it to you, but you can see here it says a file upload. You will upload that file that shows your signature stating that you're accepting the terms of the liability waiver. Now, what happens if you don't accept the terms of the liability waiver? And the answer is simple. I can't send you a lab kit. If I can't send you a lab kit, you can't do some of the labs. If you can't do the labs, I drop you from the course. Any questions about the liability form? Yes.
It's a Word document. So can we just type in our name and that's enough, or like?
Well, I was just trying to make it easier for you. Just write it out on a piece of paper. Write out the things I need on a piece of paper, take a picture and submit it. If you want,
oh, you're saying just write it out on any piece of paper.
I want your
You don't have to print out the document, that Word file. You're just
Right.
saying on any piece of paper, just write that out. Oh, got it, got it.
I want your signature, and it's hard to put a signature on a Word doc unless you print it.
Oh, you want an actual signature? Okay, no
An actual
problem.
signature. And even better, I want a video of you signing it. Charlotte's shaking her head like, I've heard this before. He doesn't mean it. She's right. Okay, so let me close that. So let me get out of this liability waiver. The other thing I'm going to need you to do, and I'd like you to do this by tomorrow, actually tonight if you can, the equipment loan agreement. Let me open that up. This basically says that we're going to send you a kit. When you look at the loan agreement, it lists all the equipment that we're going to loan you that you need to send back. We're going to send you the kit. You need to send it back when you're done. If you don't send the kit back, you owe us $50. And for this, I need your signature, the date, your name, your mailing address, so we have a place to send the kit. Your email and phone number, because you're not putting a deposit down. You're just putting down your word that you're going to owe $50 if you don't return it. Any questions about the equipment loan agreement? And the sooner you get me that information, the sooner I can collate your addresses and have Allison send them out to you guys. You really want to have these kits by next Thursday for the Avogadro's lab. Okay? You don't need the kits for the first two labs we're going to do. If you bought the scale and if you bought a ruler, and if you have the graduated cylinder, you're good to go for the first two labs. Okay, so that's those two things. And this document here that says equipment loan agreement is just another way to take a look at the agreement. Well, let's take a quick look at that. So here it is. This is all the information they ask for. And if you wanted to print it out, sign it, take a photo of it and send it in, that'd be fine. This is the list of the equipment. This is not everything in the kit. There's also a number of chemicals in the kit. If you don't use all the chemicals, we want them back so that you don't have to take care of them. But the chemicals that you will be using, I will tell you how to safely dispose of them in your house. Okay. And so here's that $50 cost. Now the deal is that if you don't pay that $50 cost, the school will hold your records, so you can't transfer them to any place if you're applying for admission. Okay, now moving along here. We have the measurements lab. You can see I have not made those available yet because I want to make some modifications to them before I submit them for you guys to look at, but they will be posted by Thursday. I'm not going to get to it tonight because I'm just too tired. The density lab will be the next lab that we do. And then finally, we have the discussion and quiz. So the module 1 discussion, you're supposed to make 2 posts related to module 1 and reply to 2 posts. Your 2 posts have to be on 2 different days. You're not allowed to make a post and then another post right after another on the last day before these are due, which is next Friday. And when I say next Friday, I don't mean this coming one. I mean the one after. You can see we have a quiz that will also be not this Friday, but the Friday after. And you already saw the module 1 Q&A, which is basically what we have done now tonight, only I did in the morning and in the afternoon.
I have a question.
Yes, Charlotte.
So is each module 2 weeks worth of work?
No. If that were the case, the semester would be about 22 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's how it works, Charlotte. Turns out that in a normal semester, we would do 12 chapters. And here, if we don't include module 0, we only have 11 chapters, right? 1 through 10 plus 23. Turns out that in this book, chapter 1 is actually made out of 2 chapters from the previous textbook. So this 2 weeks, we're actually covering what would be normally 2 chapters. So how can we get away with that? And the answer is because these are the 2 easiest chapters. So normally each chapter will be about a week and a half or a week and a quarter, if that makes any sense. So you can expect 4 exams. Since the semester is roughly 16 weeks, 1 exam every 4 weeks, 1 final exam. There is going to be a paper that you're going to have to write. And if you do with your lab notebook what I suggest you do, writing the paper is going to be a breeze. It'll be taking all of your bullet points and writing a narrative. If that makes any sense. Okay. Did I answer your question there?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, just how many chapters are we covering of our textbook?
We're covering chapters 1 through 10
Okay.
and chapter 23.
Oh, yeah, you did tell us that.
Yeah.
And
The
I wanted,
order? Do you want the order?
no, I just kind of wanted to have an idea of like how much we would be covering and like the pace that we should be like studying at, and then if your assigned homework is like all we should be doing to prepare for the exams, or like
Sometimes
there...
there's lab stuff that appears on the exam.
Okay.
But the lab and the homework are supposed to be somewhat related.
Okay. And do you recommend that we do additional like questions from the textbook?
Yes. You want to
You're
do
like,
as
yeah.
much as you can to build confidence. The last thing you want to do is get to the exam and feel like everything is new. Also, the last thing you want to do is get to the exam and think you could do that problem and realize you can't. And the best way to realize you can't do a problem is to do it outside of the exam. And when you do it outside of the exam, you'll try to figure out why you can't do that problem, overcome those hurdles, and then you want to try another problem like it to see if those are the same hurdles that you have or if you've conquered them. And that's how you really prepare for a chemistry exam, is prepare to actually take the exam by working out problems. So one of the things I saw in a lot of discussion posts about here's how I like to study, I was shaking my head because a lot of people said, I like to read the material until I understand it. I'm like, okay, you're not going to last long in my class. One person wrote, I work out problems, I write them down, and I make sure I can do the answers or do the problems without looking at the textbook. And that's the way to do it. Of course, that person had taken one of my classes before. So they realize the utility of that. And you really learn the material that way. Okay, that's Charlotte, by the way. She took one of my classes before, and I know that she probably wanted to quit a few times, but she stuck through it.
Yep.
Okay, does that help at all? You wanted, and I think in my orientation letter and in my syllabus, I wrote down that you should be expecting to spend 17 hours a week on this class, between watching lectures, Zooming, doing problems, and that's a minimum, not a maximum. And I know that there are classes you've taken where you don't have to do that type of work. And I know this because I've taken a lot of CR classes. This is one of those classes where you have to put the work in. So I don't know if you've ever taken like a Bio 1 class at CR, but you work your butt off in that class. This is kind of like that. So I guess I don't want to, I'm never, how do I say this politely? I'm always surprised by students who say, yeah, I studied 6 hours for that test the whole night before, and I only got a B. I'm thinking to myself, you are hot stuff if you got a B and you only studied 6 hours. Imagine if they'd studied 10 hours, they would have gotten an A. In this class, for that first exam, you're going to put in probably 60 hours of study before you get to it. Okay. So I'm not saying to push your family aside for the whole semester, but what I am saying is to try and carve out a little bit of time every day. Don't put it all on Sunday and Saturday. It's not going to work. Try and do at least an hour a day. Better would be, and then the bulk of it on the weekends, but better would be 2 hours a day plus extra on the weekends. Okay. So carve out the same amount of time you would for this class, like you would carve out for family or work or sleep. You do it on a daily basis. And if you are not dealing with your family on a daily basis, this is something you need to do. You don't push them away for a whole day. All right? Although I wish I could push my family away for a whole day sometimes. Any other questions? All right, Izzy, it was nice to meet you. Charlotte, nice seeing you again. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So hopefully I'll see you tomorrow evening or, oh, the other thing I should tell you is those Zoom sessions, you can attend any one of those.
Okay.
So if you can't make a 6 o'clock session, but you can make a 10 o'clock the next day, go to the 10. You can't make the 10, but you can make the 1:15, go to the 1:15. If you attend the 10 o'clock and you're like, holy schmoly, I got to see that again. I need more information. Come back, see the 6. So you are not subject to coming to a particular Zoom session. You're not subject to coming to any of them. And you can come to all. I guess the other thing I want to tell you is for Chem 1A last semester, 3 people attended the Zoom sessions regularly. They all did really well, passed the class. The other 40 students that didn't attend the Zoom sessions, I think 6 made it through. So the odds are go to the Zoom session and you'll do well. So it's because chemistry's hard face to face. Online, it's even harder, and I'm here to help. All righty then. So again, 7 o'clock, it's time to end. I hope to see you tomorrow sometime.
Thank you.
All right, toodles. See, end meeting.